OPEC strikes back. Biden dealt a big blow. He needed more production so he could get lower gas prices, so he could win the House of Representatives and the Senate and continue to govern. If he doesn't win those things, he's going to be a lame duck president. He needed OPEC to come out and say, we're going to continue to pump. They're not. In fact, they are cutting production big time. This is going to affect everybody really throughout the world in big numbers, large part, many Americans as well. And so we're going to go through this. But before we do, let's get a little bit of background over from Bloomberg so we can just understand sort of the magnitude of this loss, of this cut. OPEC is rebuked by the United States. They're very unhappy about this. They agreed to make large production cuts to keep oil prices high. They want those gas prices high. And many people are speculating that's because the feds in the United States are raising their rates, meaning they're going to encourage less consumption of oil, which means that there's going to be an overproduction of oil. And so what the OPEC organization is doing is saying that they're going to reduce production so that there's less supply to increase the prices. The Fed increased the rates to constrain consumption. They have to increase prices to cut production to maintain prices. Now, the move we're going to hear was defended by the ministers out from OPEC. We're going to take a look at them. They say it's necessary. They're mocking the Biden administration. They're laughing at CBS reporters. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and their allies, they agreed to reduce this by 2 million barrels a day starting in November, saying it's going to cut up as much as 2.4. The price of oil increased pretty dramatically after this happened. The White House said the president is disappointed by the short-sighted decision to cut production while dealing with the negative impact over there with Putin. And so let's go right over to the news and listen to how they are breaking this for us. This was CNN breaking the news that OPEC is dropping 2 million additional barrels of production and telling us what the White House had to say in response.
Well, we've got some breaking news. An important OPEC Plus meeting just ended in Vienna. Much of the world has been watching to see if the cartel would decide to cut oil production in order to boost prices. This could make for a long winter in some parts of the world. CNN's Anna Stewart is tracking this for us from London. And Anna, what's the decision? Just how big a cut are we talking?
Yeah, we finally got that decision.
Here it is.
2 million barrels per day. That is the output cut that they've decided on. And that is very much on the upper limit, really, of the expectations that we had going into this meeting. And if we look in terms of the overall context of global oil consumed around the world, that's around 2%. So that is significant in that sense. Now, in the press release, it says it's doing this in light of the uncertainty that surrounds the global economic and oil market outlooks and the need to enhance the long-term guidance for the oil market. We've also, in the last few minutes, had more of a reaction, really, from the White House. President Biden saying that he is concerned at OPEC Plus's oil production cut, saying, I need to see what the detail is. I am concerned. Is it necessary? That was in response to a question from CNN's Arlette Saenz as he left the White House for Florida.
So Biden saying he's got to study the details before he'll be able to comment on this. But this is a major, major problem. Remember, the Biden White House has been releasing oil for a long time. The Biden White House has been spending oil, releasing it for months now. It says from Bloomberg that by October, the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve is going to shrink to a 40-year low as the White House tries to deal with this. So as gas prices go up, as oil goes up, in order to deal with the consequences here in the United States, Biden is releasing extra oil. And you can see, look at that crash there all the way down in the year 2022. It is a catastrophic release, basically down to zero. That's what they're intending to do. And simultaneously, take a look at what's happening in Europe. This is the increase of electricity prices in Europe. You can see that in January of 2021, prices for Italy, Greece, Hungary, Germany, France, Sweden, and Switzerland were all under $100 in electricity cost per megawatt hour, all under $100. Now, as the war in Ukraine is heated up, as the pandemic has hit, as supply chains are wrecked around the world, as OPEC and all of the countries continue to battle over this stuff, look at the cost of electricity is going up. Well over $500. If you look in Italy, it was under $100 in May 2021. It's over $500 now in almost all of these different countries. France is right around, Sweden's the only one that's really low, but France, Germany, Hungary, Greece, all between $400 to $500 a month. Okay, 4x, 5x increase in electricity. Because if there's no oil to pay for, if oil is expensive to fund the electricity generating plants, the electricity is also going to increase in prices. And so it's a catastrophe taking place over in Europe, maybe coming here to the United States. People are extremely upset about this. Over at CNBC, we have this woman. Her name is Hadley Gamble. She's a news anchor. She's a senior international correspondent covering energy, politics, and business, saying that wherever the story takes her, she's going to go. The United Arab Emirates is home. She's over there, right in the thick of the Middle East. And after OPEC announced that they were going to be cutting capacity by 2 million barrels, this CNBC journalist questioned the ministers of energy from OPEC. She is asking them, how can they possibly live with this decision, and is wondering whether this is the weaponization of energy. Do they stand by this?
Your Royal Highness, I want to kick off by asking you specifically a question that I asked to Vladimir Putin a year ago. Are you using energy as a weapon? It was a question that he denied, but there are people in Washington and in the
Biden,
White House who right now are looking at the cuts that OPEC Plus is making, and they are saying that this is an aggressive move by OPEC. And they're very, very curious to understand why this organization that they call a cartel is moving against the United States and Europe. And Mr. Secretary General, to follow on to that, when I spoke to you just a couple of months ago, you said you had an open door policy to European policymakers. Have they entered that door? Are you having those conversations with them? Because I have to tell you, there is a huge narrative coming from the West right now that OPEC, as you say, a band of brothers, but as they would say, a cartel, is attempting to hold the world hostage, just as Vladimir Putin has done when it comes to energy prices. Thank you, gentlemen.
Now listen to their reaction at that whopper of a question.
Question, which I take pleasure of answering Hadley with a quip, not a big answer.
A quip.
Show me where is the act of belligerence, period. Secretary General.
Your Royal Highness, and back to your question, yes, I did say we have an open door. We have an open door. I'm waiting for someone to knock on that door. That's all I can say.
And you're still not getting anyone knocking on that door? Because a lot of folks would say that by this action, by these cuts, you are endangering global energy markets, you are endangering the global economy.
They don't care. They don't care.
If you permit me, Royal Highness, we are not endangering the energy markets. We are providing security, stability to the energy markets.
At a price.
At a price.
Everything has a price. Energy security has a price as well.
Everything has a price. That price is going to be paid by millions of Americans and millions of other people around the world because we are too stupid in this country to stop buying from these people for whatever reason. Well, it's because we have incompetent morons who are running things. People named, Joe Biden. So that question gets mocked and laughed at by the people in the room. They just... Who is this crazy woman asking us about these belligerents? Get out of here. We're not even going to respond to you. Next question. They don't even care. Now, the same energy comes up when they're talking about questions from Reuters. Reuters also has questions for OPEC. Hey, you're cutting 2 million barrels. Going to be a big problem for the world. Can I ask you a question about this? And listen to His Royal Highness, who just says, no, shut your mouth. We don't listen to you either.
Alex Lawler from Reuters News Agency. I had two questions. The first is...
But no, Alex, I have to talk to you about... So you have got it wrong.
Okay.
And you have got it wrong twice.
Before I ask a question,
And you will get it the third time if you did, as Reuters did not do a proper job. You talked about Russia doing this and that, and actually the day that your story came out, no one from Russia talked to me, nor I talked to anybody from Russia. You repeated that again with another tale of a story prior to that Saudi and Russia, blah, 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 are congregating around $100 price. That is not true.
Fake news is, I think, what he just said.
From one of your respected members of your bureau in Dubai, explaining to her, or actually 25 minutes, why we don't go as Saudi Arabia for price targeting. And that 25 minutes went in vain, and I really don't like that. I
don't like it.
In a very respectful way, emanating from respecting the agency, and I think, but you elected to choose a phantom Saudi source. Sourcey source, if I can do it as British as I could. But if you have questions, direct it to others, but not me.
Don't talk to me, Reuters.
Until you respect the source, which is the energy minister on behalf of the Saudi government.
Okay, thank you. I won't ask.
So you ask the questions to any of my colleagues.
Hard to say where to fall on that one. On the one hand, you got to love the guy because he's smacking the media, saying you guys are a bunch of liars, which of course is true. On the other hand, he's saying, I am the energy minister, so whatever I say is true. Your fact-finding as a journalist is irrelevant. I don't care what you found about this, that, or the other thing. I said it, so it's true. Do you know where you are? This is my world, baby. You're just living in it, okay? I get to say what happens to you little peasant Americans. If you want oil, you'll get in line like everybody else because you guys are too stupid to figure it out on your own. Therefore, Big Daddy's in charge now. That's what's taking place over at OPEC, and it's kind of, a disaster. Karine Jean-Pierre is responding to OPEC that cut 2 million barrels. It's going to be a big problem for them. They know it. They're out of town. Here's Karine on a gaggle aboard Air Force One. Here's audio only.
Is a reminder of why it is so critical that United States reduce its reliance on foreign sources of fossil fuels. With the Inflation Reduction Act, we are making a historic investment in accelerating the energy.
Very low audio.
The transition to clean energy. As it relates to Russia, your last question first. Look, it's clear that OPEC Plus is aligning with Russia with today's announcement, and I'll leave it as that.
Wow, OPEC is aligning with Russia, is what she said. Very, very low audio. But Karine says OPEC is, through this announcement, aligning with Russia, and CBS is saying that this is a war for energy, and maybe this is not good, right? Maybe this is an escalation in a big, big way. Some people are concerned about the state of the United States, fearing that maybe we are doomed and that everything is over. But rest assured, Joe Biden is out there. And my friends, he's super macho and tough. So he's going to be able to fight for us right after he flinches when this guy tries to pat him on the shoulder. Joe Biden says, you don't F with a Biden. Content warning for those of you who need one.
Thanks for everything. Thanks for coming down. We appreciate it. I picked up the...
Here it comes.
No
one F's with a Biden is what he said.
Outside the house.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So nobody actually really knows what he said right there, but you can see he almost flinches when this guy tries to pat him on this shoulder. Watch this. Yeah, he flinched right there, big time. Watch that right there. Flinch. He raises his arm. He thinks he's being attacked. Coming up, attack. No, it's just a pat on the shoulder. Flinching, recoil back. And then he realizes it's just a pat, and then he comes forward again. Let's watch that again in real time. One more time. Yeah, there it is. He says, thanks for coming down. I appreciate it. And then Biden says what?
Thanks for everything. Thanks for coming down. We appreciate it. I picked up the...
No one fucks with the Biden.
No one F's with the Biden.
You can't argue with your brothers outside the house.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Well, it seems like a lot of people F with the Bidens, including the Saudis, including OPEC. They just decided that they're cutting 2 million barrels. That's going to be a big kick in the rear for the president, for the White House, and they know it. It's going to be a rough winter. A lot of Americans are going to suffer. A lot of people are going to have to face the consequences of this reckless, insane, completely incompetent government. But we will continue to follow. And so thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video and following us along as we continue to cover it. And I will see you on the next one.